James Cameron's Avatar: Fire and Ash has finally arrived in theatres, and there's a lot to break down in the filmmaker's latest film. The new installment in the Avatar saga feels like the second half of the Way of Water's story, giving us emotional culminations of plot points and characters, while leaving it open for a planned fourth and fifth film to take the saga in a potentially different direction. I'm going to be breaking down the plot and explaining the ending to help you guys put together a much greater picture of this growing Avatar saga on the big screen. This analysis will contain spoilers, so if you do happen to be someone who hasn't seen the film yet, then I would recommend watching this video after you've seen it. But before I get into my breakdown and review, if you want to keep up to date on any of my Avatar content, then don't forget to support this upload by giving it a like rating and subscribing to the channel. But without further ado, let's dive into James Cameron's Avatar 3 Explained. So Avatar: Fire and Ash picks up a few weeks after the events of The Way of Water, with Jake Sully and his family still grappling with all the grief they faced in the previous film. Having fled their forest home, they found sanctuary among the Met Hyena, but survival has become more complicated than simply defending their territory. Pandora itself is proving to be far more fractured and perilous than they ever had imagined. Contrary to hopes that the humans might retreat after their second defeat, the RDA has intensified its presence on the planet. Their primary goal remains Amrita, the anti-aging substance harvested from the brains of the Tolkien. With an upcoming gathering of these creatures, the RDA is preparing for what promises to be a massive, potentially devastating operation, something that becomes central in the film's final act. But Jake, Neytiri and their children are still mourning the loss of Netayam. In one of the first scenes, Jake observes Neytiri's pain and wrestles with how best to respond. He tells her that he wants to use human methods of combat, believing that fighting with guns might be more necessary to the survival of their family, but Neytiri clings to faith in Eywa and their people, recoiling at the thought of them using human weaponry. In an attempt to console her, Jake reminds Neytiri that she still has her family and that he will always stand by her. The family's challenges also extends to their adopted human son Spider, who's unable to breathe in Pandora's atmosphere without a mask. With only a few masks left, Jake realizes that it's too dangerous for Spider to stay with them. They eventually reach an arrangement with the Wind Traders, a nomadic Na'vi group that travels Pandora's skies on enormous wind-driven vessels and flying creatures. Unlike the darker, more violent forces emerging on Pandora, the Wind Traders symbolize movement, connection, and exchange rather than domination, serving as cultural bridges between distant Na'vi clans. Through the Wind Traders, Jake learns that conflict is spreading, not only from human interference, but also within Na'vi society itself. Despite this, the clan agrees to transport Spider to a high camp to ensure his survival. We learn through this that Neytiri believes Spider should stay at this high camp, worried that his presence endangers the whole family. And Jake, feeling the growing tension between both his family and the Met Hyena, ultimately consents to leave Spider at that camp once they arrive. All of the Sully family travels with Spider and the Wind Traders, but before they can even reach their destination, they face a threat far more immediate and deadly than anything they've encountered before. And that threat is the Mangwan clan, also known as the Ash People. Unlike other clans, the Ash People are at war with nearly everyone on Pandora. Their leader Varang is ruthless, ambitious, and terrifyingly destructive, ready to incinerate anything in her path. And Varang's backstory helps explain her and her clan's formidable nature. Born as the next Tashik of her clan, she was raised in the ways of plant medicine and shamanic arts by her mother. But tragedy struck when a volcanic fire devastated their forest, destroyed their home tree, and killed many of their people. In the aftermath, Varang and her clan rejected Eywa because she did not help them in their time of need, questioning and even resenting the deity that other Na'vi hold sacred. Determined to protect her people from further suffering, she rose as their leader, transforming the ancestral crafts of healing into tools of control, developing toxins and hallucinogens to command loyalty. Her people now revere her, but the trauma they endured has left them bitter, hostile, and ready to strike anyone who crosses their path. This hostility becomes painfully clear when the Sully's journey with the Wind Traders takes a deadly turn. The Ash people ambush their group mid-flight, raining flaming arrows onto the Wind Traders' massive balloons and setting them ablaze. In the chaos, Jake and Natiri's children in Loak took Kiri and Spider, plunge into the jungle and river below, fleeing for their lives. But the Ash people are relentless in their pursuit. Also, time runs out for Spider as his oxygen supply fails, underscoring just how high the stakes have become for the whole family. In a dramatic turn of events though, Spider is saved through the intervention of Kiri, who possesses a unique bond with Eywa, the spiritual force that connects all life on Pandora. Kiri being born from Grace Augustine's avatar body is a miraculous event in itself attributed to Eywa. Yet in Fire and Ash, we see that Eywa currently rejects Kiri's direct pleas, leaving her unsure of her place and purpose. She discovers that she indeed has no father and is essentially a clone of Grace in Na'vi form, which may explain Eywa's hesitancy. While the film hints that her abilities stem from her unusual birth, there are further hints that she may be part Eywa herself, a potential revelation that could reshape the saga down the line. Anyway, during the chaos of the Ash people's attack, on the spot, Kiri performs a life-saving ritual for Spider. She places a wood sprite in his mouth, allowing tendrils from the ground to connect to him and spread throughout his lungs. And miraculously, Spider gains the ability to breathe Pandora's air without an exopack. This is a monumental development for the Avatar universe, as historically, humans required Na'vi bodies to survive on Pandora. But now, Spider represents both an evolutionary leap and a high asset for the RDA. If they could replicate his ability, humans could permanently live on Pandora, assuming they seize control of the planet. But after this, following Spider's life-saving transformation, the children are briefly captured by the Ash people. We also get the return of recombinant Miles Quaritch, Spider's so-called biological father. Despite his complicated history with Jake, we learn that he is still intent on capturing Jake and his family, although initially he does work with Jake here to try and help save Spider. The confrontation escalates when Varang examines Loak's RDA weaponry and notices Spider breathing without his mask. Kiri attributes it to Eywa's will, but then Varang threatens Loak, taunting Kiri about Eywa not coming to save them. Quaritch intervenes here to save his son, and seeing that Varang is impressed with the human weapons, he tries to negotiate with her. However, the situation quickly devolves into combat, and in the end, Jake, Quaritch and the children manage to escape the Ash people. Eventually, Quaritch sets his sights on Varang, travelling to her home tree and supplying her clan with bags of RDA weaponry. After Lyle Wainfleet snipes one of her warriors, Varang grudgingly compliments Quaritch, recognising his tricks in this encounter. Alone together in her tent, Quaritch offers himself as her equal, promising all the ultimate weaponry to help her dominate the other Na'vi. Varang acknowledges him with a simple "I see you," to which Quaritch confidently replies, "Damn right you do." From this point on, Quaritch deepens his alliance with Varang, complicating matters for General Ardmore and the RDA. In a striking show of loyalty, he paints himself in the Ash people's war paint, cementing his partnership with her. And this alliance could finally give the RDA what they have been seeking, capturing both Jake and Spider. Before we come to that though, tensions flare with the Sully family at the Mech Hyena's village. Loak struggles with grief over Netayam's death, and he's frustrated that he isn't allowed to help Jake in the ways he wants to. Jake gets into a heated argument with him, and out of frustration, he claims that his actions had a part to play in Netayam's death. Their personal struggles are soon interrupted though, when Quaritch and the Ash people arrive at the Mech Hyena village. Loak sets off to find Payakan, while the Ash people ignite part of the village on fire, forcing Jake to come to them. Attempting to protect his people, Jake negotiates with Quaritch in that if he goes willingly with them, no one else will be harmed. Quaritch eventually agrees to this, and Jake and Spider are taken as prisoners to the RDA's Bridgehead base. Once at the base, Quaritch presents Jake to General Ardmore, who is indeed pleased to receive him, but also uneasy about hosting the Ash people. But Quaritch persuades her to allow their temporary presence. Meanwhile, Jake is slated for execution the next morning, and we also learn that the RDA plans to study Spider to reverse engineer his ability to breathe Pandora's air. In a brief moment of insight, Jake hints that Quaritch might yet see the world differently. In a private conversation between them, he tells him that his memories are of a dead man's memories and that he should open his eyes to the planet. While this foreshadows potential change, Quaritch still remains aligned with the RDA. The Sullys, however, are not without their allies too. Neytiri's fighting spirit, Spider's adaptability, and the moral conscience of Dr. Garvin all play key roles in stopping the planned execution of Jake and Spider being studied further. Spider himself manages to get out after a one-on-one encounter with Quaritch. He is given the dog tags of the real Quaritch, and he later uses them to escape his cell. Meanwhile, Dr. Garvin, opposed to the surviving Scoresby's planned Tolkien slaughter, seizes control of a massive RDA vehicle and crushes it into Jake's cell, aiding his escape. And Neytiri, who was injured in previous combat and eventually healed by Norm and Max, dons Ash People warpaint and mounts a daring rescue. On her Ikran, she successfully retrieves Jake and Spider, setting the stage for a tense family reunion. And this is true because following the escape, Jake and Neytiri confront the harsh reality of Spider's existence, stating that if he survives, humanity could exploit him to colonize Pandora. So heartbroken, Jake contemplates ending Spider's life to protect his people. As we learn though, he cannot go through with it. And Neytiri too runs back into the forest after them, ultimately accepting Spider as one of her own children, bringing a moment of emotional connection amidst all the ongoing chaos. And this brings us to the climactic third act. It's here that Jake fully embraces his role as Turuk Makto again, uniting the other Na'vi clans to confront the RDA and the Ash People. We learn that the RDA are intent on harvesting the Tolkien on a massive scale, meaning the Na'vi clans have to join up to stop them. Loak arrives with Pyakhan and the other Tolkien too, rallying their kinds to fight back. And the battle eventually unfolds at the Cove of the Ancestors, a sacred and spiritual site for the Metkayina, featuring an underwater spirit tree reminiscent of the Tree of Souls. The fight erupts both in the sea and the skies, with Jake and the assembled clans initially gaining the upper hand on the RDA. But the arrival of Quaritch, Varang and the Ash People shifts the direction of the entire battle. Neytiri and Jake are injured in the initial part of the fight, leaving Loak, Spider, Kiri and Took to fend for themselves. And in a critical moment, Kiri, Spider and Took decide to enter the spirit world via their Kurus to call on Eywa for help. With Kiri leading the connection in the spirit world, she finally finds a way to connect with Eywa, and in doing so, we get our first glimpse of Eywa herself. She looks almost human in the glimpse we do get of her, and we see a side of her massive face glowing to the side of the frame. Again, we don't get all the answers surrounding both Kiri and Eywa, but that's a topic that I'll explore further with my theories video next week. Anyway, their plea to Eywa does work, sending waves of ocean creatures to aid the Na'vi. Amidst all the action, Scoresby is killed by a Tolkien, and General Ardmore is killed when her ship collides with a flux vortex. Also, Ronal is fatally injured, but before she passes away, she gives birth, entrusting her infant daughter to Neytiri. Her two sons also die in the battle, leaving only Tesseria, Ronal and the newborn as part of the Metkayina. But the climax of the film all builds to yet another confrontation between Jake and Quaritch, with Spider now in between them. Spider chooses to protect Jake and ends up in danger at the end of the fight, forcing Jake to rescue both him and Quaritch. Meanwhile, Varang is beaten in combat by Neytiri, but she's able to escape the situation alive. Neytiri, Tesseria and Loak eventually arrive to aid Jake, and it forces Quaritch to leap off the floating rock, leaving his fate uncertain. So if Avatar 4 does happen, it's likely that he'll return, perhaps wrestling with his loyalties and the advice Jake gave him before about seeing the world with new eyes. We'll have to see how that develops, but I'm guessing that that's the direction it will go in. But the film then closes on a profoundly emotional note. Kiri guides Spider through the spirit world for the first time, where he encounters the ancestors of those who have died in previous films. We see Netayam, Grace Augustine, Tesute, Ronal, her sons, and many others. And rather than ending this film with a close-up of eyes like the previous installments did, the final shot of Fire and Ash pulls back to show Pandora itself, showing Eywa's luminous reach across the planet. It's both a visual and emotional culmination of the trilogy's themes, with unity, loss, and the interconnectedness of life. With James Cameron previously hinting at a time skip for the fourth film, this ending feels both conclusive and forward-looking, leaving the door open for the next chapter of Pandora's story. So what are my thoughts on the latest film in James Cameron's Avatar saga? Well, for me, there's a strange sense of comfort in returning to Pandora. Fire and Ash may not reinvent the franchise, but it deepens many of the elements Cameron has always excelled at, and most importantly, it managed to make me feel emotionally invested. On one hand, it's hard not to marvel at the film's technical achievements. The digital landscapes and creatures are breathtaking, and every frame invites you to get lost in all the texture, scale, and sheer detail, something that remains rare even in today's CGI-heavy blockbuster landscape. Avatar continues to deliver a spectacle unlike anything else, and while the story at times feels familiar, the experience is still visceral, immersive, and thrilling. What sets the film apart visually is how it weaves family and tradition into its set pieces. The Sully family dynamics are given much more breathing room, and the quieter, more intimate moments of grief, intergenerational tension, and private reflections lend genuine weight to the story, preventing the spectacle from feeling purely decorative. Furthermore, the performances also lean into the franchise's strengths. Sam Worthington and Zoe Saldana carry the weight of their long-standing characters naturally, grounding the fantastical world with as much human emotion as possible. And Una Chaplin's Varang and Stephen Lang's Quaritch provide different kind of characters in the Avatar saga. Yes, the film treads familiar ground, and I do wish we got more of Varang in the second half of it, as she was the unique aspect this time around. Also, there's many themes and heroic family arcs that echo the first two films, which can feel very repetitive. But for me, it works on an experiential and emotional level. It delivers on the central story beats, landing emotional moments, and provides a cinematic experience that's both thrilling and immersive throughout. I was moved, impressed visually, and left wanting to return to Pandora to see where Cameron takes the story next. So ultimately, I think Avatar Fire and Ash succeeds where it matters for its core audience. It deepens the sensory and mythic life of Pandora, gives the main characters meaningful arcs, and delivers sequences of wonder and action that feel designed for the largest, most immersive viewing formats possible. It's a film that asks audiences to embrace spectacle and character loyalty, rather than demand a radical reinvention. And for anyone who grew up with the original Avatar, I think this installment feels like a warm, emotionally resonant return, even if it isn't revolutionary. I thoroughly enjoyed the experience, and while the next film will need to explore new directions, this chapter reminded me why Pandora remains such a compelling world. But that was my video explaining the plot and ending for James Cameron's Avatar Fire and Ash. I do hope this breakdown helps some of you guys understand the events and smaller details of the film a bit better, and overall, I'm looking forward to hearing your thoughts on it, so don't forget to let me know down below in the comment section. For much more videos and news on James Cameron's Avatar saga, then subscribe to the channel and turn on your notifications. Also, if you enjoyed this video, remember to leave a like rating and follow me on social media via the links in the description. But anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed it. I've been Cortex, and as always, make some noise.